Okay, Bolton at home to Queen's Park Rangers. Saturday lunchtime kick-off this weekend in the Premier League. This is a massive game at the bottom of the table, really is, between two teams fighting it out to stay in the Premier League. Bolton are in 19th position, 2 points behind QPR, so they could go above them if they win this home game. And it's been a weird season for Bolton, really, because amongst sort of the bottom half of the table, there's been all sorts of chaos. Wolves have sacked their manager, QPR have sacked Neil Warnock, Blackburn have obviously had a lot of problems with Steve King and the board. But with Bolton, it's kind of been steady progress, really, or steady in terms of their management has stayed the same. Fans have been relatively supportive to the management, so it'll be interesting to see if they get rewarded for that coming into the season and stay in the Premier League. But the recent form is worrying. They've lost their last four, so this is probably the biggest game of the season for Bolton, or certainly the biggest in their last 10 games or so. Queen's Park Rangers, the fans aren't convinced by Mark Hughes at the moment. He replaced Neil Warnock, obviously did really well to get them up. But he just hasn't had it all his own way so far. I mean, they've drawn with Everton most recently, and this ended a run of 3 successive defeats. But they have come through a period of games where they'd like to get quite a few more points than they have, and it just hasn't happened for them. They have got a really tough run in. So, like Bolton, for QPR, this is a massive game. Prediction-wise, I'm actually going to go for a home win. Bolton's form hasn't been fantastic, but I am worried about QPR. I think, I'm not sure the players they've signed. I don't think their heart's in the relegation battle. So, I'm going for a Bolton win. I'm going to go for 2-1 to the home side. Okay, we're going to look at Aston Villa at home to Fulham. This is a 3 PM kick-off on Saturday afternoon in the Premier League this week. Talk about Villa to begin with. Now, it's really been a season to forget so far for Alex McLeish's men. They're 8 points clear of the relegation zone at this point, so that's relatively comfortable, but they need to be very careful because at the moment they're down in 15th. Most recently they've drawn with Wigan and Blackburn on the road, so that's a decent achievement considering those are two teams below them that haven't made up any ground on Villa, so they'll be relatively pleased with that. But they're going to have to be careful, as I said, because they've got to do about Darren Bent for the rest of the season. Alex McLeish has called upon them to be a lot more ruthless in front of goal, and they certainly need to be at home because they haven't won at home since the 5th of November. That's a 3-2 win over Norwich, so that's a tremendous run for the likes of a team like Villa to not win at home for that long, and it's really becoming a massive problem for them. So they'll want to improve this weekend against Fulham. It won't be easy though because Fulham, they're 8th in the table at the moment. They're probably in the best form they've been in all season. Been a purple patch, you might say. They hammered Wolves last time out, 5-0 victory at Craven Cottage on Sunday, and that really was a fantastic performance from Martin Jol's men. They've got a front three who are performing extremely well. They've got Pavel Provineniak, who's come in and scored 5 goals in 3 games since his arrival to Craven Cottage. Along with Clint Dempsey and Andy Johnson, they really are a force going forward, and they want that to continue this weekend at Villa Park. Prediction-wise, though, I don't think there's going to be much to choose between the two teams. I think Villa needs to raise their game this stage of the season. I think they will, but it might only just be a point. There'll be goals, so my prediction, Villa versus Fulham, is 2-2. Okay, we look at Chelsea versus Stoke. It's a 3 PM kick-off on Saturday afternoon in the Premier League. Couple of quick words on each team first. Chelsea, it's been a very eventful week for them. They've sacked Andre Villas-Boas, perhaps harshly considering the amount of time he was supposed to be given, but the results haven't been there. So Roberto Di Matteo is in until for the rest of the season. They picked up a nice win at Birmingham in the FA Cup, so they've progressed in that, and now they want to think about the top 4 in the Premier League when this resumes this weekend. Premier League at home to Stoke at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. As for Stoke, their season's back on track really in terms of the Premier League. They are out of the Europa League, but they've won their last 2 games, home games against Swansea and Norwich, and they've climbed up to 9th in the table, so any lingering worries that they may have been dragged into the sort of bottom half of the table have now been extinguished, and they will be targeting the top 10 finish. In terms of prediction for this one, Chelsea home to Stoke, I think it's Chelsea that are going to get the points. I think Stoke will find this one difficult. They've had a lot of games recently, whereas Chelsea, the home crowd, will probably be lifted sort of by the new manager, albeit a caretaker manager. So I'm going for a 3-1 win to Chelsea. Okay, we look at Sunderland at home to Liverpool. It's a 3 PM kick-off on Saturday afternoon in the Premier League. Talk about Sunderland to begin with. Now, they're 12th in the table at the moment after the really feisty 1-1 draw at Newcastle last time out, but they'll be happy with the point there, I think. Even though Newcastle scored late on in the North East derby, it stopped a run of a couple of defeats for Sunderland in the league, and it's a good point to get at St James's Park. So I think Martin O'Neill will be happy, but they want to get back to winning ways because after the fantastic run they've been on, they will want a top 10 finish. No matter what Martin O'Neill says, they really would target that, I reckon, for the rest of the season. As for Liverpool, now they're down in 7th at the moment, and they've obviously had success in the Cup. They've moved past Manchester United and Brighton and so on in the FA Cup. Then it's come to the Carling Cup and they've won that. But in the league they've actually lost a couple of games recently, and obviously lost to Manchester United, they lost to Arsenal most recently. So down in 7th, they've got to be really careful they're not dragged sort of further down the table really, because obviously it's still targeting top 4 finish, but to finish in the bottom half would be unheard of. But if they could lose the next 3 or 4 games, for example, they could be dragged into it. But you wouldn't expect them to, but they just need some Premier League points. That is an absolute certainty. So Sunderland v Liverpool should be a really good game actually. I'm looking forward to this one. And I actually think there won't be anything to choose between the two teams. So I'm going to go for Sunderland 1, Liverpool 1. Okay, we look at Wolves at home to Blackburn. It's a 3 PM kickoff on Saturday afternoon in the Premier League. Really big contest between two teams fighting for survival in the Premier League this season, and you have to think that come the end of the season they'll probably look back at this game as a potential crucial moment in whether they stayed up or whether they went down. Quick word on Wolves. They lost 5-0 to Fulham last time out. This was Terry Connor's second game since succeeding Mick McCarthy. They got a good point at Newcastle, but then this was obviously a hammering against a Fulham side that are in form at the moment. As for Blackburn, they were held to a 1-1 draw at home to Villa last time out. Maybe on home still they'd like to have got 3 points from that one, but it wasn't to be. Having said that, they're still in touch with survival, which a lot of people thought they wouldn't be come this stage, so Steve Keane deserves some credit for that. But this is 17th versus 18th in the Premier League. They're level on points, and it really is a massive game. Prediction-wise, I've got a feeling for Blackburn this weekend. I think Wolves' home form has been relatively poor all season, and I'm not sure the sort of fighting spirit will be there under Terry Connor. As much as he's a good coach, I'm just not convinced that was a very good appointment. So I actually think Blackburn, who have got a couple of good away wins recently, well not recently but this season, they've won at Anfield, they won at Old Trafford, so they have got capable performances on the road, so I think they're going to get the 3 points this weekend. So I'm going for Wolves 1, Blackburn 3. Okay, we look at Everton versus Tottenham. This is a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday evening. Really good looking game in the Premier League this weekend, rounding off Saturday's action. Talk about Everton very quickly to begin with. They're on an excellent run at the moment, really solid. They're sort of unbeaten in the last few games. They drew at QPR last time out, which was a game they might have aimed to have won, but QPR are fighting for their lives. That's a decent point on the road. And on home soil, they've beaten Manchester City recently, they've beaten Chelsea. So now going into a home game against Tottenham, they'll think they're very confident and they'll think they can get the 3 points from this one. As for Tottenham, it's been a bad couple of weeks for them. They were due because they've been fantastic all season. But they've lost to Manchester United, they've lost to Arsenal. So they'll be really disappointed that they kind of have drifted away from the title race. So which is definitely gone now, but it's all about finishing third now, and then beyond that it's making sure they finish in the top four, because you've got the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool possibly, who are really going to be pushing for that top 4. So Tottenham need to make sure it's just a blip and they get back on form starting this weekend at Everton. I think they will do as well. So prediction wise, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I think there's going to be goals, both teams. Everton might as well go for it because they've been in good form and they're in the mid-table. Tottenham kind of need to be positive because they need to get back on track. So I think it's going to be Everton 2, Tottenham 3. Okay, moving on to Sunday's fixtures now. We've got Manchester United at home to West Bromwich Albion, 2 PM kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Manchester United obviously 2 points behind City at the moment, so it's kind of neck and neck. They keep plugging away, making sure that gap doesn't get any bigger, and hopefully, as far as they're concerned, they'll look to overtake them before the season's out, obviously. Fantastic win at Spurs last time out. It was a big test of United's title credentials, if there was any doubt about them, because they have been particularly ruthless recently. They won at Norwich in the last minute, then a great win at Spurs. So they're back at Old Trafford this weekend to get 3 more points, they would hope, with Wayne Rooney's back. So they're looking good, Manchester United. As for West Brom, they're flying up to 10th in the table after 3 wins in a row. Most recently, they're at home, certainly they've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Sunderland 4-0, but that 1-0 win over Chelsea most recently was a fantastic moment for Roy Hodgson and his team, who have struggled at home this season, so that was a really satisfying win. This is possibly one step too far for them though. They'll be happy with their form, but can they go to Old Trafford and get something? I don't think so, so I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Manchester United. Okay, also taking place at 2 PM on Sunday afternoon, it's Manchester City, league leaders. They go to Swansea to take on Brendan Rodgers' men. Talk about the home side, Swansea, to begin with. Now, last time out, arguably their biggest win of the season, I think, at Wigan. They kind of had a couple of defeats before that, and people started to wonder whether they might be dragged in to a relegation battle. They're now 14th, they're 11 points clear of the bottom 3, and you would think now that they are probably safe, and deservedly so, because they've been a fantastic addition to the Premier League this season. As for Manchester City, I mean, the pressure's always on in the title race, so they'll be taking it one game at a time, but they really, with United going neck for neck for them in the last few weeks, Manchester United showing a good ruthless streak. City have got to do the same away from home. But this is a tough test, of course, because Chelsea have gone to here this season and not got all 3 points. Same with Spurs. Arsenal lost at the Liberty Stadium. This is a tough test for Manchester City, but I think they'll come through. I think they're showing good signs recently that they are going to finish the season strongly. So I'm going for Swansea 1, Manchester City 2. Okay, the final game on Sunday is Norwich City at home to Wigan. It kicks off at 4 p.m. to the Super Sunday fixture this weekend in the Premier League. Talk about Norwich to begin with. It's a massive match for the Canaries, I think, because they probably are safe. Most people would say they're 13 points clear from the bottom three, but they have lost 3 in a row in all competitions, so they really want to get back to winning ways. And if you maybe need one more win to stay up, Norwich to get to 38 points they'll be on then this is kind of the one they'll poke to get it in. They want to get it as soon as possible, so they can start sort of looking towards next season, where they can finish this season rather than worrying about being dragged in to anything messy at the bottom. As for Wigan, it was a horrific result at home to Swansea last time out. That was a game they kind of really needed to win to push on in the next few weeks, and it kind of makes this game even more important at Carrow Road this weekend. There was also rare criticism from Dave Whelan, the chairman, after the defeat to Swansea, so that doesn't bode well for them for the rest of the season in terms of the atmosphere at the club and sort of where they're heading. Having said that, they're only 2 points away from safety, so it's still all to play for, so it's a big game. Norwich at home to Wigan this weekend. Prediction wise, I think it's the Canaries that will get the points. I think they'll just about have enough. Paul Lambert will have them focused after 3 defeats in all competitions, and that's not happened too often in his reign, so he'll really want to get back to winning ways. So I'm going for Norwich 2, Wigan 1. Okay, the final game to look at is Arsenal versus Newcastle. It's the Monday night football fixture in the Premier League this weekend. Talk about Arsenal to begin with, and what a fantastic effort for them to get anywhere near qualifying for the next round of the Champions League. They were 4-0 down from the first leg. They gave it a really good go against AC Milan most of this week, and won 3-0. Didn't quite have enough, but it was a really good performance from Arsene Wenger's men, and as it has been the last few weeks really, because they've beaten Spurs comfortably on home soil and fighting back from 2-0. Then they've beaten Liverpool in the Premier League, and they're doing well, probably in the best form they've been in for a while. Certainly found their scoring boots at the moment. They're 3 points clear of 5th as well, as the Champions League spot's looking good for them, and they want that to continue after this weekend. As for Newcastle, they got a late equaliser versus Sunderland last time out. It was a very lively local derby, but they'll be happy to get away with a point in the end, having trailed for a lot of the game. They've got 3 games without a win now though, so they'll really want to get back to winning ways, Alan Pardew's men. They're 6th from the table and they'll want to stay there. So perhaps they maybe need a really big result to push on in the final third of the season. And funnily enough, I actually think they'll get it this weekend. Arsenal's season has been inconsistent, so knowing them, they'll probably have these really good performances followed by probably what would be considered a shock result at home to Newcastle. So I'm actually going to go for Arsenal 1, Newcastle 2.